Because Justice Alexandre de Moraes has just published the decision in which he denies the visit request from the Argentine president, Javier Milei, a request that had been made by the defense of former President Jair Bolsonaro. We have the document to show you. The document states that due to item 1 of the decision issued on June 17, 2026, then the justice refers to yesterday's decision Friday, in which he maintains Jair Bolsonaro's house arrest but prevents him from receiving visitors. Because of yesterday's decision, he considers the request moot, meaning he denies the request. Since, except for regular visits from doctors, physical therapists, and lawyers, all other visits are suspended for 30 days. Under the penal execution law, this is the decision of Justice Alexandre de Moraes, which has just been published, denying the defense's request for a visit from the Argentine president, Javier Milei, to former President Jair Bolsonaro.
Another illegal, disproportionate, cowardly, and cruel decision. Bolsonaro was buried alive with only his head above the ground and is being kicked in the face by Moraes. Today it was more kicks to the mouth. The fear that Bolsonaro might return to the presidency of Brazil has completely taken away his ability to be a judge. Using the power that the state granted him to satisfy your personal whims is not justice, it's revenge. Don't ask me what revenge is for because I can't answer. The law exists to set limits on tyranny, and the foundation of democracy is that the final word always belongs to whom? The people. Moraes tipped the scales in the 2022 elections and is trying to interfere again in 2026. It's blatant, the bizarre strategy of stealing from the first panel of the Supreme Court cases that should be handled by the Electoral Court System, the TSE, in election cases. Minister Fashin, how long will Bolsonaro's political rights remain under attack from his enemies? An illegal handball goal upheld for the sake of democracy. But Bolsonaro still exists. Breathe, drink water, eat, smile, suffer, sleep, wake up from the nightmare. This nightmare will end. This does not take away your rights to communicate, to see your children, or to choose your own lawyer. But no hardship lasts forever. I hope that this sad chapter of the current false democracy opens the eyes of those who still haven't understood that a tyrant never gives up the powers he has granted himself. Have you realized that the next president of the Republic will appoint 4 Supreme Court justices? If you're still just cheering from the sidelines and haven't stepped onto the field to prevent 4 more yet, Alexandre de Moraes in the Supreme Court, destroying democracy, persecuting people, it's way past time for you to step onto the field, right? Either we unite now, set our differences aside, and understand that the other side is dirty, plays outside the rules, and will do anything to stay in power, or it will be the end of our Brazil.
Moraes decided not to grant this authorization, right? No.
Exactly, Marina. We were already expecting this decision at any moment. We were just talking about this a little while ago, since Moraes decided then to cancel the visit and ban any visits for 30 days. We wouldn't have this visit from Javier Milei. And we remember that this request from Jair Bolsonaro's defense was made shortly before the decision. We had first a statement from the Attorney General's office, and then we had this order from Alexandre de Moraes. So the defense had made this request to the Supreme Federal Court shortly before, right? Precisely because Milei had already announced that he is coming to Brazil next Saturday to take part in this party convention, which will officially nominate Senator Flávio Bolsonaro for president. And he wanted then to make this visit to Jair Bolsonaro. In fact, this convention will be held in São Paulo, but he would travel with his team to Brasilia to visit the former president, who is under house arrest in a neighborhood here in the federal capital. Now then, the decision has come as we already expected, due to this total ban on visits for the next 30 days. But it's worth highlighting that any election-related political statements are also prohibited there until the elections, whether through third parties or directly by former President Jair Bolsonaro. And if Bolsonaro violates any of these precautionary measures, his humanitarian house arrest can be revoked. Therefore now, Moraes confirms information that we already suspected would come in the next few days. In fact, Jair Bolsonaro's defense team was already expecting that this visit would be denied after Alexandre de Moraes' decision, which then prohibited visits to the former president. Any visits over the next 30 days and until the elections, including from his son Flávio Bolsonaro, as well as any election-related political statements. Marina, back to you.
Sonia, we've been following this whole debate, this whole process, right, involving former President Jair Bolsonaro, who is under house arrest. As you said, it's mainly due to the latter, which is part of a series of ongoing crises. Former President Jair Bolsonaro had already violated at another time, according to Alexandre de Moraes' understanding, the precautionary measures imposed. And now, therefore, another consequence, according to Moraes, of these violations. Thank you once again, Sonia, for the information. We will continue to closely follow the repercussions of this issue and bring you more updates directly from Brasilia, from our team of reporters and analysts, which is a platform responsible for analyzing the authenticity of digital files, stated that it did not find any evidence of artificial intelligence use. In the photo, which shows Senator and pre-candidate Flávio Bolsonaro, together with Luiz Felipe Mourão, known as Sicario, and the owner of Banco Master, Daniel Vorcaro. This is one of the highlights from our website, sbtnews.com.br. The result of this study challenges the version presented by the senator himself in a live broadcast, when he said that the image had been artificially created. The verification process, according to the platform, involves analyzing the origin of the file and then searching for traces left by the use of AI. The metadata did not display the digital label that marks digitally manipulated images. With that, the platform concluded that there is no likelihood that the image was AI generated. The story of the father, Jair Bolsonaro. And now this week, there's more evidence of Flávio Bolsonaro's closeness with members of the group, right, of the gang that was part of the scheme at Banco Master. In this photograph published by the ICL Institute on Wednesday, which was initially challenged by Flávio, but he did not deny the authenticity of the photo. Later, he came forward, changed his mind, said it was AI generated. But now we already see these platforms, so these studies being done on the photograph and they say the photo is real, it's not AI generated.
Yeah, I remember that right after the audio recordings were released, exchange between Flávio Bolsonaro and Daniel Vorcaro. The leader of the PL in the chamber, Sostras Cavalcanti, himself gave us an interview here on SBT News, saying that, look, Brazil goes through weekly crises, this one will soon be forgotten and other crises will take its place. And Flávio Bolsonaro's candidacy will continue without major setbacks after this case involving Daniel Vorcaro and Flávio Bolsonaro. What happened was really a succession of crises within Flávio's own campaign. Crises on top of crises that keep unfolding and piling up. A scenario that seems increasingly difficult for Flávio. On the eve of the convention that will confirm his candidacy for the presidency by the Liberal Party. That's because right after the audios, we saw the crisis with Michel Bolsonaro, then the tariff hike crisis. Now, this image of Flávio with Sicario, released by ICL Noticias in recent days, all of this is making the situation around Flávio Bolsonaro's candidacy worse. Very negative for his candidacy. I think especially the Tarifaço crisis had even more damaging potential. Not by chance, Flávio Bolsonaro went to the United States and wrote a letter to Marco Rubio. He told the American government that the tariff hike would harm his candidacy and strongly favor Lula's re-election campaign. But none of that was enough. Still, what do these companies that measure the impact of these political events on social media say? What was shown is that this very photo of Flávio with Sicario had a bigger impact than the tariff hike itself. In other words, Flávio being repeatedly linked to the Banco Master case. With these figures who are now under investigation, these figures who are terrible for any politician to be associated with, especially during an election, Flávio ends up seeing his candidacy increasingly damaged, especially with independent voters who would consider voting for Flávio to remove Lula from the presidency, and who today represents a significant portion of the electorate that will decide who will be the president of the Republic at the polls in October. So Flávio is facing a major hit right now, especially with this segment of the electorate, and it will be important to wait for the next polls to see how significant this damage has been for Flávio. And another problem that is very clear is the communication issue. The first statement released by Flávio Bolsonaro in this case already mentioned the possibility that it was a fake, a photo manipulated using artificial intelligence. Then, in the second statement, he removes that part and keeps only the information that Flávio is a very well-known public figure who takes photos with many people and that he doesn't know the people he takes photos with. And Sicario would be one of those people. Right after that, in an interview, in a live broadcast on social media, he talks again about the use of artificial intelligence. He mentions Sicario's pinky finger, saying it would be a very big pinky finger. Therefore, it's proof that it would be an AI fabrication. Now, this platform is also saying that it's not the case, in addition to many investigations by colleagues, especially from Série Notícias, who revealed this case showing that it really isn't a fabrication. Flávio doesn't give any explanations about this or many other cases related to Banco Master. And this even makes it difficult for Flávio's political allies to feel confident in the statements of the presidential candidate. And this undermines his political support base, his electoral support base, and especially undermines the vote of independent voters, the ones who will decide the runoff. What we've seen in the latest polls is the decline of Flávio's candidacy from April until now, the beginning of July, always in very small percentages, but showing a downward trend that is terrible for Flávio's candidacy. Now, in these cases, we need to see how this trend will hold. If it continues, if it keeps trending steadily downward, the big loss for Flávio's campaign is not seeing this trend end with successive increases in his poll numbers. So anyway, it was a terrible week for Flávio Bolsonaro with these two revelations. I myself, on vacation in Bahia, saw many people talking about this on the beach, in bars, in restaurants. It's really a topic that gains traction in society, and it's terrible for Flávio Bolsonaro.
I'm picturing you sitting in a beach chair with a coconut water in one hand, your phone in the other, investigating and seeing the photo of Flávio with Sicario and already thinking about your analysis, Cesar. Thank you once again for your participation.